For over 25 years, Valve has revolutionized the gaming industry time and time again. From Half-Life and Portal to Steam and the International and more, they changed how we think of first-person shooters, digital storefronts, esports, and sale-related memes. There's also the small matter of generous mod support and the many different games it has spawned over the years. Many of Valve's greatest creations owe their origins to community efforts, though none has become quite as successful, long-lasting, and controversial as the CounterStrike franchise. Closing in on 2.5 decades atop the charts, the eternal game of cat and mouse between Ts and CTs continues anew with CounterStrike 2. Here's how it all began, where we are today, and what the future holds. In 1998, the original Half-Life was released. No words can do justice today to its impact. It changed the first-person shooter genre from Doom clones to something entirely different, revolutionizing how first-person narratives could be told in games. As Gordon Freeman rampaged through Black Mesa, desperately looking for a way out, players took to the robust tools used to create his adventures to explore and mold different worlds, including its multiplayer mode, Half-Life Deathmatch, which would soon become the formation of CounterStrike. Just a year later, Min Gooseman Lee and Jess Cliff put out the first version of the mod that would become the visceral tactical series we know and love today. At the start, it was just one of many user-made creations competing for love and affection, but it exploded in popularity quicker than a C4 package being planted at the B site. While the core gameplay of CS remained the same across 2 decades, many of the specifics would be unrecognizable to a modern fan. When bomb defusal mode was first introduced in the 4.0 beta, bringing along maps like the original Dust, Nuke, Station, and Prodigy, Ts could plant the bomb anywhere on the map and CTs couldn't defuse it at all without a kit. Mere months into the new millennium, Valve acquired the title for themselves, a profitable habit they've kept up with ever since. The retail version of CounterStrike 1.0 launched in November of the same year to great success, selling 1.5 million copies in just 4 months. Eventually, once the 1.6 version rolled around, updates became exclusive to Steam, and that version number remained the same to this day. What's remarkable about Counter-Strike is how its fundamentals have remained largely unchanged across the years. Yeah, hostage mode may have predated bomb defusal, and the tower of duct tape known as the Source Engine wasn't stacked up quite as high as it is today, but you can load up a 2001 version of the original game and play some Dust 2, recognizing all the spots where legendary battles were fought and knowing which turns to take along the way. Hell, the 20th anniversary edition of the map in CSGO tracked so closely to the original that lobbies seamlessly swapped back and forth between the two as part of a little celebration of gaming history. Next came Condition Zero in 2004, a single-player focused experience developed by Turtle Rock Studios. It's one of the more forgettable entries in the franchise with that odd focus on single-player missions. It's Condition Zero you need to thank whenever you pull your hair out because of a bot. CS connoisseurs might recognize the Asian market spin-offs: Counter-Strike Neo, Counter-Strike Online 1 and 2, and Counter-Strike Nexon Zombies, each one running on the Gold Source engine. And if you ever wanted to dive into an anime version of Counter-Strike, there's a whole visual novel spin-off called White Memories, with a 12-episode storyline and an absolute banger of a soundtrack. But don't worry, you won't have to wait long for the next mainline entry in our story either. Counter-Strike Source came out later that same year in 2004. A lot changed throughout the development process, some meaningful, some funny. The old man with glasses hostage, for instance, used to be Dr. Kleiner's original Half-Life 2 model, before they redesigned him based on the face of one of the company's accountants. This marked the beginning of a great divide, with a large chunk of the player base and competitive play sticking with the 1.6 they all knew and loved, while others flocked to the newer, better-looking game with slightly different movement and gunplay than what the classics had to offer. But this split remained open for almost a decade, with much bickering and bunny hopping along the way, until Global Offensive arrived. Yes, it took 8 years for Valve to write the next big chapter of the saga, or rather they outsourced the job to Hidden Path Entertainment, a company with offices right around the corner who they had previously worked with on various smaller titles. They handed over the reins to update and maintain Source after 2009 and start development work on the next entry in the series. It all began with the plan for a console port of Source, which morphed into a confusingly named internal project called CounterStrike 1.5. Eventually, this turned into the iconic global offensive. When CSGO came out in 2013, it showed few signs of becoming the gaming juggernaut it blossomed into across the years. To many, it felt like an odd mishmash of the previous entries rather than a bold revolution, and hidden past clumsiness also didn't help. It took years of updates and fine-tuning to make CSGO competitively viable and fun to play, but what really made it take off was the Arms Deal update. On August 13th, 2013, the first big post-release content drop for Global Offensive arrived, bringing cosmetic weapon skins with it. Nothing was the same from that point onwards. From the careers and fortunes made from secondary markets to the entirely new way people looked at their in-game arms, it was a 21st century gold rush of virtual goodies. But even as Valve cleaned up a good portion of the mess that followed, interest in the game remained strong. View counts and player numbers kept climbing. And climbing, and climbing. By the end of the pandemic, CSGO had dethroned Dota 2, Gabe Newell's favorite child, by most metrics of popularity. But little did the community know, Valve was hard at work developing the next entry of the series for years at that point. One that promised a technological revolution and was set to launch what was already one of the most popular games on the planet into a new decade in bold, brash, colorful fashion. The Viscera and terrorist theming remained, all the skins carried over into the new entry, and most of the maps and layouts are recognizable. And yet, CounterStrike 2 is a brand new beast. Ported to the Source 2 engine, it finally paid off years of tech debt, filled with magical marvels of volumetric smoke, subtick systems, and massive graphical overhauls. And yet, the cerebral magic of the 5v5 battles remains all the same. Even when some small things seem to be wrong, it all just feels so very right. The Counter-Strike series is one of the definitive franchises in the gaming world. And for the first time in over a decade, a new generation of fans is experiencing what it's like when a brand new edition comes along. It's going to be an explosive affair.